Welcome to this next episode of YouTube where I've entitled it Thanksgiving, and we really want to acknowledge what we're thankful for here at the International Wolf Center. We're very thankful, firstly, for most recently all of the donations to the Give to the Match Day, which I mentioned last week. We're very thankful for all of the help that we were given through that. We're thankful for our support that we've been receiving for our Wolf Lab expansion, which we've been hoping to start digging on the ground pretty soon here. Did that up and running pretty quickly. We did receive a lot of support from our followers with that project, and so we're very excited to get started with that. Also, we're very thankful for our volunteers, our staff, and our supporters of various functions and events throughout our existence. We're very thankful for all the people who are involved with the International Wolf Center. We thank you very much for that. The other thing, of course, we want to be thankful for is our ambassador wolves and their ability to teach the world about wolves, and they do an excellent job with that through just simply exhibiting their natural behaviors to our visitors. This footage here is actually filmed from the inside our observation areas. This is not outside. We're filming this from the inside here, and so you can see that even and especially with the falling snow, we get some excitable activity from the wolves exhibiting their natural behaviors, showing some interaction and some excitability. You see Bolts there is following with a pretty high tail. It's a T2 tail that's straight from the back, with Luna also being a little spry at this time. Again, the snowfall seems to emphasize their behaviors. They seem to be pretty excitable around this time of the year when the snow starts falling and the weather and the landscape really seems to be changing. And so this was taken last week, again from the inside, when we were starting to get some of the snowfall. You could see Bolts and Luna are pretty interested in the snow accumulation on top of the frame there. Again, that's new this year. This is certainly a new sensation, having the steel frame there. Definitely a different feeling. It'll certainly be helpful, hopefully, on cool days, and or I should say on cool days when it accumulates the heat from the sun, and also on hopefully warm days. Hopefully it will maintain some of that coolness, especially if we get a good rainfall. It might be a good place for the wolves to cool off on. And so we're seeing a lot of interest with that, especially from Bolts, which we'll get into a little bit later on. And I mentioned last week we were showing a lot of the interactive and play behaviors from the other wolves, but as I mentioned, Aiden does get involved in that. And this clip here, you'll see that Aiden's sort of initiating some interaction, some play behaviors towards Bolts there, and they went back and forth like this for quite a while during the snowfall. At this time, you can see that this is still pretty social. Their tails are wagging. There's a lot of social behavior between the two of them. This isn't necessarily at a serious point yet, but it's always good to keep an eye on ear postures and tail postures when you're going through these interactions to see if it does become serious, because sometimes play behavior does turn into more of a dominance situation, which is, again, regular. There's ritualized dominance that happens every day between pack members, and so that's not something to be concerned about. And again, you can see Aiden's very engaging. We show a lot of footage of Aiden perhaps being a little bit more stoic and more watching the behaviors rather than participating, but he does get his time in, especially with Bolts and Luna, interacting and playing around with them. But you can see that Bolts has his limitations. He was getting a little bit too much focus from both Aiden and Luna, so he decided to retreat a bit. And as you can see, Aiden's a very confident leader of this pack. He's more than willing to roll over during these interactions. He doesn't seem too intimidated by that. But again, he has his limits. When Bolts got that grab bite in the back of his neck there, that seemed to be his line. He wasn't really comfortable with both of them focusing primarily on him. But he adjusts, and he's very confident. And as Denali is demonstrating here, we are mostly finished with our work on the pump housing. We have bolted in the steel frame or the steel roof on top of the frame there that Denali is standing on. and he's seems more than willing to test it out. Again, the um, this is something new to them. This is we there is some, as you can see, some movement when you have a heavier wolf on there. Again, Denali is about 130 some pounds, and he's with this step he can certainly uh, move the metal to a degree, but not too much to where it would bend. But that's why we bolt them in there, to make sure that the frame stays put, doesn't get moved by any activity from the wolves, and it seems to be holding up pretty well. And as you can see, this is bolts sitting on top of the pump housing and seeming to enjoy the sensation of it. He's actually been spending quite a bit of time on top of the housing there. This is shortly after the snowfall, and because of that, we also want to make sure that that these wolves are, still warm on top of the steel frame, which can be, again, be pretty cold. So we've added some straw on top of. We've just got some Timothy hay in, and that we're going to add in. Timothy hay is a little bit. Well, the primary benefit from it is that it has fewer burrs, and so we don't have to worry about the wolves getting burrs stuck in their fur and having to chew them out. And so we just got some of that in, and we're going to start spreading that pretty soon on top of the dens and on top of the frame here. As soon as we get some consistently cold weather, we don't want to spread it around on wet ground. But we are getting into that weather. We're getting colder days, and it's starting to stay that way. Soon enough, we'll be pretty well into the freezing weather. And this is Denali coming out of the den. As somebody had asked last week whether or not we have enough den space for the wolves. In the wild, the wolves tend to mostly only use dens during the pup season. When the female is whelping pups, she usually uses a den of some sort to whelp those pups in. But we do have dens and shelters for the wolves, so that they have a place to retreat to in hotter weather or colder weather, depending on the season. Denali is sitting on top of the main den right now, and that has a very large septic tank under it that has plenty of space for them. So they do have a lot of space in there. And as you can see, we did get some howling footage finally from the pack. And Rizzer's very keen to the activity in the pack. This is him just following along after a chase that happened in the exhibit pack. He's pretty keyed into the activity over there, and he seems to like to follow along. We also had another question previously about Drizzer and whether or not he gets enough attention from wolf chair staff when we go in and check on the wolves on a daily basis. Again, these animals are socialized, so they are still very much wild animals, but we have socialized them to the point that they can tolerate presence from wolf chair staff, people that are highly trained in handling themselves around captive wolves, and also many of which had a hand in raising some of these animals. And so we do spend a decent amount of time at checking on them physically, and also, especially with Drizzer, maintaining social contact, because he is in his own enclosure. He doesn't have any other wolves in his enclosure, and he's in a situation that we couldn't introduce another animal into his enclosure, because a younger animal, if we were to try to introduce a pup in with Drizzer, Drizzer is 11 years old, and our life expectancy here is not too much longer. And so if we were to introduce a pup into Drizzer's enclosure shortly after he passed away, then we would have another animal that's by themselves. And we only try to introduce animals that are, again, at a young age, so that we can take advantage of the nurturing hormone prolactin, so that they can get into the pack. And so that's not a option for us. So we do try to spend more time with Drizzer so that he gets social engagement from the rest of wolf care staff. And as you can see, there's some footage here of wolf care staff interacting with Drizzer, and he seems to take it in stride. He seems to benefit from it quite a bit. We do, again, try to spend more time with him if possible. Sometimes he's very receptive and wants to interact for the most part. Other times he's wants to greet, and then he has his own things on his mind, and perhaps he's ready to just move on to his own day. And so we do again. We'll interact with him as long as he's receptive. We don't push it if he doesn't want to interact. It's on their terms as to whether we interact with them or we continue their interaction. But we do spend a decent amount of time with Grizzer. It's not always on camera. We do have a live streaming camera on our website, and I think the confusion sometimes is that we're not always on camera interacting with him. He does have 3 enclosures, and so we're not always right there on camera to interact with him. Many times we're interacting in other enclosures that are out of view of the camera, but we do spend a lot of time with him. And so that is pretty much it for this week. Again, we're very thankful for all of the support we've gotten in this past year. We're very thankful to everybody who's followed us and supported us through this time, especially with the new projects and upcoming pups next year. We're very thankful that we have so many people supporting our efforts to help teach the world about wolves. So thank you very much. We will see you next week.